Greetings everyone, my name is Greg. In this video I'm going to do something a little bit different than I've done before. In other videos I have a topic in mind and a message that I'm trying to get across. I don't think I have done a random type of video. Well, this is as close to random as I'm going to be able to get. The thing is, I do have an overall purpose. There is a reason for this type of video. And that being, I'm going to demonstrate for you the pace of a metronome. This is 45 beats per minute. And it is something that I'm going to have running in the background as I'm talking. And I'm going to try as best I can on the fly. I have not planned this other than setting up for doing the metronome, what I'm going to say, or trying to pace myself to what is the metronome, because I'm probably not hitting the exact 45 beats pace. But this is something that I want you to get a feel for, because this is something that when you're listening to a politician, a preacher, or even what would be termed like a professional speaker, I have no doubt that they would have repetition and repetitively done things like this to get themselves to where that this type of pace, or the pace that they're talking at, is fluctuating between 45 and 60 beats per minute. And that is where you can tell, even if they're, to use the term, sounding a bit more excited. Let's kick it up to 50. So slightly faster, but it's not at the upper limit. This might be the pace that some choose to, when they're speaking, to move at, or if they're trying to really get rolling, to be something like this. Now, I don't think Alex Jones does anything even close to this, because he just becomes a raving lunatic. And in that, I don't think he has any plan or idea of just how something like this can work. But this is 55 beats per minute. I'm going to kick it up to what is the limit of 60. Now, something like this, I find it interesting that some could condition themselves to where, when they're speaking, to be at the pace of a metronome. It would indicate to me that there is planning involved in knowing that this can be hypnotic. And that would raise questions in my mind of, what's their agenda? What is it that they're trying to do that they feel they need to utilize, basically hypnotizing people? Because it would raise the question for me of, is what they're saying real or factual, or are they doing it to try and basically brainwash, or to lull you into a hypnotic state to where they can easier get their message across? Because the thing is, now, just Let's kick that down. 51. The thing is, I very rarely do videos where I show like the skull that I have. This, in case you're wondering, is a puzzle. It was a 3D puzzle. My girlfriend had put it together, and I'm not going to totally take it apart because it's a son of a bitch to get back together. But this is the top piece that just goes over and closes off the skull. But when she first did it, she hadn't locked it down type of thing. And somehow with that, it gets locked so that the pieces of it stay together. It's a very cool design. I like skulls. There's various 3D puzzles, because the original that I had gotten in this regard, I got back when I was in my first year with the Army National Guard. This I had found when we were going to AP Hill, Virginia. I think we were in Jersey at a truck stop or something that we had stopped for lunch or whatnot. And it was one of the things that I came out and I had gotten. It basically, instead of eating or whatnot, I had looked around the gift shop type of thing, and I came across this, and I was like, that's cool. I want that. So it's one. This has been in my office, and it sits right below my monitor that things like that. And it's the only real dagger that I have. This I had gotten from the former business partner that I had, Tom Blackwood, who was the theistic Satanist. It's one, in case you're curious, it's Egyptian. The art and so forth on it is Egyptian. And I don't know if it is supposed to be along the lines of Sumerian. I doubt it, honestly. But it's something that I find, it's interesting. And it was one of the nicer gifts that I had gotten. And it's just a letter opener, because there's no edge to the blade. It's nothing in that regard. I mean, there is a bit of a point to it, but that's about the extent of it. But yeah, it's a nice little dagger or letter opener. But something else that I had found when I was in Texas at my AIT for the Army was a bunch of pewter gargoyles and dragons. And it was one that I had a whole bunch of them at one point, but some went missing over the years. I don't know. At one point I had an apartment where I would have a housekeeper come in and clean, and I think one of the housekeepers decided they were going to steal, because some of my pewter gargoyles had come up missing. And it's one of the things that, yeah, it pissed me off, because I like them. I know Christians get all pissy and so forth over things like that. Because they see it as demonic, but the gargoyle is actually a symbol of protection. And there is one of the early ones I had gotten. I got this back when I was working at the adult bookstore in my 20s. It is basically like a sleeping gargoyle. And it sits pretty much like that. The aspect of almost like sleeping gargoyle. And it's something that I find, this one got my attention and I like it. It's just, I very much like the gargoyle and the mythology behind them. Now, some of the others that I have, one has a bit of a candle on it, but remove that so you can see it is another gargoyle similar to the sleeping gargoyle in some ways, because it's got its hand, it's holding its head with its hand. But that one came with a candle type of thing. It's all in all, I like things like that. Now, I think this is something my girlfriend had found. It is an incense burner. And it's got a bit of dust on it because it sits on top of my computer table. And if you look, it is the See, Hear, and Speak No Evil in skulls. And if out of the mouth is where the incense would stick. And it's just one of those, I like skulls. It's not a matter of being anything demonic or of death. It's just skulls and dragons and gargoyles. They're a bit of my thing. But let me kick this down. There's the 45. But overall, things like this, I enjoy things that are a bit stranger, a bit more not the normal. It's not that I'm trying to be demonic or anything like that. I don't believe in things of that nature, but it is something that I find it intriguing and I enjoy it. Another thing I enjoy, as you can see, I have excuse me, the aspect of eye candy. Now, those are pictures that I had taken and removed the background so as to have them able to be up, because I had looked earlier and I had taken back when I have a calendar, by the way, that I just need to get a thumbtack, pretty much, because my girlfriend had gotten a dream catcher and she needed a thumbtack to put the dream catcher over the bed. And I took the one, I basically sacrificed the one I was using for my calendar to use with her dream catcher, and I just haven't gotten another one. Yeah, they're cheap and so forth, but I just haven't done it. But not having this up, I have gone to a more blatant type of eye candy with removing the background on pictures to have things like that, because it's just something that I can move them and put them wherever I want. I mean, in that regard, and even like remove that one, because this one, I don't know if you notice, but when I was doing it, it was one, it wouldn't make sense to have this particular one on the other side, because the way the picture was, her hand is just at the edge of that image. So it was one of, that would be something that I would have to completely flip the picture with the GIMP program that I have, just to flip it so that it would have her hand over on the other side. But it's something that, things like that, I regard not as objectifying women, but rather just showing the beauty of the female body. Because I don't think the female body is something that a woman should be ashamed of. It's not something that I feel should be demonized the way religion does. But I hope this gives you an idea with the metronome type of thing. Let's kick it up to 60 because this would be, to use the term, the upper limit of pace. But like I said, I don't think I speak in a monotonous, rhythmed speech like somebody that would talk at the beat of a metronome would. But I wanted to demonstrate this so that you would be able to see that what that sounds like and what pace that is at, because I'm just okay. Figure I'll close that out so that I can. Now, I have noticed since I started doing videos again today that I can't do the annotations, at least not now, like I used to, where I would have subscribe up. So, be that as it may, I have pretty much the eye candy, and like I've said, it's not to be insulting to women, it's just I feel the female body is a work of art. It is not a matter of it being nasty or anything of that nature. And just to touch on this idea of sin for a second, just in case anybody that this is the video that they're seeing, not the other ones that I've done, the aspect of sin only applies if you're Jewish. Because the Ten Commandments type of shit was specifically given where the God supposedly said about leading them out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, and that type of shit, even though we know historically that never happened. The idea that they spent 40 years in the wilderness is horseshit, because the distance that you can see with Google Maps is that's a 4-day journey. And there ain't no fucking way that it's going to take idiots, I don't care how blind they are. It would not, a 4-day journey is not going to take you 40 fucking years. Especially with that many people. Because you could have basically one person holding frickin' hands and you'd get there. It's one, if you want to make sure you're not going in a fuck circle, just hold fucking hands and extend it out. And then pretty much when the one person gets to the destination, it would be a matter of, all right, everybody follow the leader. Boom, you're there in about a week. It just, the idea that anybody would have been in a desert for 40 fucking years, that's just absurdly insane, absurd, obnoxiously stupid. It really shows that, not to mention there's no historical evidence or archaeological evidence that there were ever Jewish slaves in Egypt to begin with, let alone that they escaped and all that shit. There's no evidence that happened. So the aspect of it's an interesting story, yeah, that's all well and good, but there's no reason for anyone to believe that it is realistic or viable or in any way that it even happened. But the last thing I'll mention is, as you guys can see, I got the necklace working again. And this is the original necklace that I wore with the chain, because the way it had happened with when I was throwing truck at, because since I'm not there anymore, at Walmart, because I wouldn't mention the company's name when I was there, just out of there may be some gripe that they would have. Well, now they can kiss my fucking ass. But I'll let you see what ended up happening was basically one of the links, pretty much that one right there, it had broke. It got stretched because I would lean over the rollers and this could get caught, and instead of basically choking me, the chain is not that strong, so it would just bend one of the links and it would fall apart. So I had stopped wearing it at work because it was a safety issue. And with being in charge with the unloading of the trucks and all of that, I had to look at the aspect of something being a safety issue. And one of the things they had made an issue about is, as their leader, it was one, I'm basically their example, and in some ways I could go along with that. In others, it was one of, I go by what works. Basically, there was one point I had been in the truck, and you're not supposed to climb on things, but I would, to get, if something I had to get to was up higher, I would climb and I would put myself in precarious positions. Well, there was one point I was in the truck by myself, and whatever I was balanced on, my footing slipped, and I basically came down on my elbow on the truck, and the other lead that I had joked with me about no dropping the people's elbow in the truck, and I chuckled because it was a reference that I got what he was getting at, and I also understood basically the overall message of watch yourself, be careful, don't do stupid shit, even though it was more one of focused on the ends justify the means. In some ways I agree with the ends justify the means. In other ways I don't. It's all situational in that. But I hope you found this interesting and enjoyed the show, both of eye candy and so forth. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. And I had noticed one comment that had said about MK Ultra with mind control, and yes, I am very much aware of MK Ultra, and I'm going to be doing a video or a few on the subject of MK Ultra, and probably playing another video to really get that point across, so that for those that may not be aware of the subject, it is a very in-depth, a very involved subject that gets into some things that are some behaviors and practices that were done by the U.S. government that were not so nice. And just for everybody out there, for those that may not be aware of MK Ultra and when that was started, just to give you a bit of a history on it, and to maybe you'll see a connection that is quite valid. MK Ultra was started right after World War II. And I want everybody to be aware. The Nazi scientists, when they wanted to get out of Germany because shit was hitting the fan, where they got out, or how they got out, was through what was called the Rat Line. It was done and built and operated by the Catholic Church. The idea that the Catholic Church was opposed to Hitler is bullshit. The Catholic Church had observed Hitler's birthday every year. And they helped the Nazi scientists escape World War II in Germany through the Vatican rat line. It's quite an interesting subject. And yes, the Catholics' hands are quite dirty with World War II. But there is also, for those that are curious, where those scientists went, the United States, most of them. There's even some speculation that where in the United States did they go? I have read and I have come across information that says where they went was NASA. I don't know, but it's interesting. But the aspect of MK Ultra starting right after World War II does seem to indicate that the experiments that Hitler was doing, because it wasn't just Hitler. Let's be clear. What was being done was evil, it was vile, but to say it was Hitler, and I'm not pro-Hitler at all, I think he was an asshole. The thing is, to try and say that it was just him or just Stalin is bullshit. There was a mindset at the time. And one thing that's disturbing that I have seen since is I've seen a great deal of comments. And it's one of the things, especially if I'm going to regard someone as a troll, if they are showing anti-Semitic, almost Nazi-like in their posts of anti-Jew, they're going to go. They're going to fly. I'm not going to put up with it, because I'll be damned if I'm going to have some Christian Nazi spouting their propaganda in my comment section. You assholes can get bent. I'm not putting up with it. It's the aspect of the Jew comments, they bother me. Not that I'm Jewish, I'm not. But Mark Powers is a friend of mine. And it's also something that I recognize that there is this, it didn't start with Mel Gibson, but he sure as fuck didn't help matters. With his ignorance and his stupid Passion of the Christ movie, because, and this is another thing I want to touch on before I close this video. I see this constantly, and it irks the fucking shit out of me. It's people referring to Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, not his last name. Christ is not a last name, you stupid inbred fucktards. Christ is a religious title. It is a religious title that he did not earn. It does not apply to him. He didn't fulfill the criteria. Cut and dry. He's not a Christ. There was no Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. There's been speculation of could the actual person that character was based on have been someone like Apollonius of Tyana? I don't know. The aspect of the Shroud of Turin has been proven to be a fraud, but even if it wasn't, the aspect of a Jesus dying and so forth, that only goes to prove he was nothing. The aspect of him rising from the dead doesn't mean a fucking thing. Because it was, and I have quoted it, John 14:12, the miracles that he did, those that believe on him shall do the works that he did. So he made it quite clear that the works that he did was not what made him some kind of deity. Because if everyone that believes on him can do the works that he did, then Christians, fuckers, hop to it. Let's go. Get your miracles going. Get this shit happening. There are children in cancer wards that really fucking need it. And I want to see it. Come on. And don't be trying to tell me about how some bullshit claim of, well, different Christians on different Christian channels have said about miracles. Sit and spin. Because for all this and this near-death experience shit, these claims, and this is a prime example of why claims don't mean a fucking thing. It should have been a fucking clue when the kid that was involved with this heaven is for real crap, that his last name is Malarkey. But when this Malarkey kid it was really his father that came out with this bullshit story of how he died and saw Jesus in heaven. Bullshit. The thing is, the kid had said not too long ago, like a year or so back, yeah, that story, that near-death experience never happened. It was all made up. The thing is, he was coming forward because he didn't get any of the money from it. And he said he felt bad, and so I don't buy it. But the thing is, there are Christians today that will still quote and still reference things like the heaven is for real claim as if that proves an afterlife, which it doesn't, or these near-death experiences, which makes me wonder if these people have an understanding of what the word near means. Near and after are very different words. They have very different meanings. The thing is, I don't buy the idea of near-death claims, because you would have, for someone like me, you would have to be able to show evidence that what is being supposedly seen is not being influenced by the brain. You would have to be able to prove to me, number one, when this was happening, the brain was not active. And I don't know how in hell you're going to prove when a memory forms. Because as far as I know, as far as science has said, in order to have a memory, you have to have the brain working. Because when I had my hernia surgery and I was out, as far as things go, I was nada. I don't remember jack fuck shit until I woke up again from the anesthesia. There was nothing. I was out completely when they did my abdominal surgery. Now, when because my personal feeling is when I die, that's it, lights out, game over. It is no different than basically flipping off the light switch, game over. Or for Saw fans, and I like the movie Saw, the aspect of game over. Sing. That's it. And as far as I'm concerned, why do you need any more? Because all you're going to have by ideas of an afterlife are people that are preoccupied and focusing and dwelling more on the idea of what life will be like in some afterlife, instead of how they're living their life and what they're doing right now. And in that regard, I see it as fantasies like that can cause somebody to not value what they have right now. And in that regard, that it can cause them to waste what I regard as the only life they're going to have. So, yes, the idea of an afterlife, it definitely does harm. It definitely hurts the person because it inhibits their living their life to its fullest. And that doesn't mean going out and being a total fucking dickhead. Because if you're going to have that mindset, Christians, then logically you're going to behave that way anyway. Because after all, you got your fucking scapegoat Jesus. What's it matter? Don't hand me this if you didn't believe in Jesus and so forth, that you would be going out raping, murdering, so forth. Because as long as you have your belief in Jesus, what the fuck does it matter? You can do all that shit and then just go, oh, sorry God, I fucked up. And in your own warped theology, that means you get everything wiped away because Jesus paid the price for you. So what's it fucking matter? So what stops you from going out and doing that stupid shit? Because this is the last thing I'll close with. Because it was that football player, Aaron Hernandez or whatnot, that was in jail for murder. That he hung his dumb self. To which I go, fucking good. The thing is, what was mentioned was he had circled with like in blood and so forth, John 3:16. That should fucking tell you. When you have a convicted fucking murderer looking at John 3:16 and loving it, of course he'd love it. Because it gives him an easy fucking out. It lets him feel as if he can get away scot fucking free for what he has done, not having to account for a goddamn thing, not having to be a fucking man, not having to atone for what you've done. I don't know how you would atone for killing somebody, but he doesn't have to do anything, and he hung himself and had the John 3:16. Fuck John 3:16. It is the most immoral idea. It is self-centered to the extreme. It is all for me and fuck you. It irks the hell out of me. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, people.